guys, thank you for joining us for day 13 of the Jesse tree. So yesterday we read about the little boy David that was chosen by God to be the next king of Israel, but he was still a little boy. And so yesterday he killed that giant Goliath. Yeah. And we found out that David liked to play the harp, and Saul liked to hear him play the harp. So Saul kept David close to him because David's harp playing soothed him. Do you know that David liked to do more than just play the harp? David also liked to dance. Do you like to dance? I like to, but I'm not very good at it. But I think God likes dancing, especially when we dance with joy before Him like David did. Let's read about it. The title of this chapter is Dancing. A car had parked outside the church, and its radio was playing very loudly, a thump-thumping rhythm that made the water in the font ripple. The boy jumped about to the music, trying to tap his bare heels together in mid-air. "Confounded racket!" complained the old man. "Stop that jigging, can't you? Remember where you are." "Is that another rule? No dancing in church?" The carpenter made a noise like a grumpy camel. "Do you want me to go on telling you about David or not?" Luckily, David found a good friend in the king's son Jonathan. In fact, David and Jonathan became the kind of friends who start singing in the same key, who start speaking at the same moment. They were inseparable. Together, David and Jonathan and King Saul cut down the Philistines like a field of corn. As the conquering army trooped home, women and girls came out to dance and sing in the streets. "Saul has killed thousands, David has killed tens of thousands." Over and over, Saul muttered the words under his breath. They rankled. David, tens of thousands. Jealousy chewed on him like a dog. Suddenly, the mere sight of David sitting there plucking a gentle tune on his harp was enough to cloud Saul's vision with red smoke. Picking up a spear, he hurled it. David ducked. The spear hit the wall and stuck there, trembling. David fled. Jonathan went after him. "Stop, wait. I can talk my father around. I've done it before, haven't I?" The friends clung to each other, dreading the power and the spite of the king. "Hide there behind those rocks," said Jonathan. "Tomorrow I'll come and practice archery here. If I shoot short, it means it's safe for you to come back. If I shoot past you..." It was hard to think about. His best friend might need to be parted. Or the two best friends might need to be parted. The next day, Jonathan went out with his bow. His fingers fumbled the bowstring. His arrows flew, with a noise like sucking breath, way out over the rocks, over the crouching figure of David. David had to leave. It was no longer safe to stay. Madness like a raven sat on the king's shoulder, whispering terrible thoughts into his ear. Saul now looked on David as an enemy to be hunted down and killed. David could have fought back. He was a good enough soldier. Once he even chanced on Saul in a cave and could have killed him then and there. But David settled for slicing the fringe off Saul's cloak. "If I wanted to kill you, I could have done so today," he said, half reproachful, half taunting. "But I would never lift a finger against you." Saul's heart was no more softened than a stone in a stream. He went to war with David, body and soul. Faced with this madness, some of Saul's troops deserted him and went over to David's side. The Philistines, meanwhile, rubbed their hands with glee and closed in for the kill. In a disastrous battle, Saul and 3 of his sons were killed. One of those sons was Jonathan. "Oh, Jonathan, Jonathan!" The cry that broke from David's throat was like a bell falling from its tower and breaking. Thanks to the Philistines, David had become king of Israel, and he was inconsolable. But King David believed in God, and he believed in Israel. He pulled it together, that unhappy divided nation, and he rode out to conquer her enemies. When the fighting was over, David determined to take the Ark of the Covenant, abandoned by the superstitious Philistines, to God's holy city, Jerusalem. It had been carried into battle, stored in tents and private houses, traipsed through deserts and over mountains. Now David brought it on a brand new cart, escorted by a hand-picked guard of 30,000 men. And there were cymbals, clashing tambourines, rattling pipes, lyres and bells. And David danced, and he danced. With the music pounding on the car radio outside, the boy too began to dance, eyes shut, both hands raised, swaying in time to the beat. With a clatter, the church door opened, and a lady with her arms full of gladiola flowers came in. At the sight of a barefoot boy dancing up and down the aisle, her mouth and eyes narrowed to slits. "What is that child doing, Mr. Butterfield?" The carpenter's mild reply shocked her even more. "Just dancing, Mrs. Grimley, like King David did in Jerusalem, dancing before the Lord." So many times we think that our worship needs to be so solemn and serious, but the Bible doesn't show that. It shows people dancing and singing and playing musical instruments to the Lord, and it showed that God likes that. Yep. So, all right. Thank you for listening with me again today. Join me tomorrow for more of the Jessie Tree. Bye-bye.